You know what it is, Dan? It's a lack of calluses, you know. I've just completely lost them. I probably first heard a Longneck banjo where everyone else first heard the Longneck banjo, in the hands and through the musical performances of Pete Seeger. The Seeger family lived in Chevy Chase, Maryland, which was where I grew up. Pete was always around town. I mean, he was performing at every imaginable folk festival and event. And, you know, as just a kid, I heard Pete Seeger perform, and my parents had the records. I had a anthology set called The Folk Box, which was released by Elektra and Folkways Records. It was kind of a joint project that came out in '64. And so I grew up listening to that anthology specifically, and Pete was on there. He was on that anthology in several places. So I really admired his banjo sound and, of course, his beautiful singing and the repertoire that he kept alive. He was an artist that everyone reckoned with, and I certainly did. I took banjo lessons very briefly from a gentleman named Pete Kennedy, who's pretty well known in folk circles, I think. He was a fairly young teacher at the time, teaching in Bethesda, Maryland, you know, and I took maybe 5 or 6 lessons from Pete. And Pete was a very versatile player. I mean, he could play everything from Clarence Ashley to Brahms' Lullaby to, you know, classical pieces worked out on the banjo. He was kind of, I don't want to say ahead of his time, but he was kind of doing the same, you know, versatile approach that, of course, Bela Fleck mastered on the 5-string. So Pete was a great teacher, but it wasn't really until my late teen years that I could actually physically handle a long-necked banjo with the reach that it has, with the stress it places on both arms and hands, you know, and the calluses that I built up playing all the time on the 5-string were quite thick. You know, I felt like I could handle just about any, you know, hot object because my calluses were so built up. I'll never get drunk anymore. I'll never get drunk anymore. Gonna lay my poor head in some pretty girl's lap. I'll never get drunk anymore. Look at that liquor jug sitting yonder. Last night that jug, it was full. This morning that jug, it is empty. Lord, I have took my last pull. So I'll never get drunk anymore. I'll never get drunk anymore. Gonna lay my poor head in some pretty girl's lap. I'll never get drunk anymore. My dear old mother, she told me drinking was an awful sin. If you don't quit your rowdy ways, my boy, you'll come to some bad end. But I'll never get drunk anymore. I'll never get drunk anymore. Gonna lay my poor head in some pretty girl's lap. I'll never get drunk anymore. I just felt that the instrument was a very comfortable, sweet-sounding, you know, instrument wherein it had a deep range, and as my voice was developing, I guess it fit my vocal range. I'll never get drunk anymore. Never get drunk anymore. Gonna lay my poor head in some pretty girl's lap. I'll never get drunk anymore. It's a very therapeutic instrument to play. This particular long-neck banjo kind of brings back wonderful memories of, you know, how one develops a deep bond with one's instrument. And you know, I had one long-neck banjo for like 20 years that I played virtually every day and in all kinds of weather and environments and you know, in public and, you know, at home. Fox went out on a chilly night, prayed for the moon to give him light, prayed many a mile to go that night, before he'd reach the town, oh, town, oh, town, oh, many a mile to go that night, before he'd reach the town, oh. He ran till he came to the great big bend. The ducks and the geese were put therein, said a couple of you will grease my chin, before I leave this town, oh, town, oh, town, oh. Couple of you will grease my chin before I leave this town, oh. He grabbed a gray goose by the neck, slung a little one over his back. He didn't mind their quack, 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 legs all dangling down, oh, down, oh, down, oh. He didn't mind their quack, 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 with legs all dangling down, oh. But old Mother Pitter-Patter jumped out of bed. Out of the window she cocked her head. She cried, John, John, the great goose is gone. Fox is on the town, oh, town, oh, town, oh. John, John, the great goose is gone, and the fox is on the town, oh. John ran up to the top of the hill, blew his horn both loud and shrill. Fox, he said, I better flee with my kill, for they'll soon be on my trail, oh, trail, oh, trail, oh. Fox, he said, I better flee with my kill, but they'll soon be on my trail, oh. Fox went back to his cozy den. There were little ones, 8, 9, 10, said, Daddy, Daddy, better go back again. Must be a mighty fine town, oh, town, oh, town, oh. Daddy, Daddy, better go back again, for it must be a mighty fine town, oh. Then the fox and his wife, without any strife, cut up that goose with a fork and knife. They never had such a sup in their life. Little ones chewed on the bones, oh, bones, oh, bones, oh. They never had such a sup in their life, and the little ones chewed on the bones, oh. It's an incredibly generous gift to donate a beloved instrument to an institution or a community of students and learners. The fact that Mr. Davis donated it to ETSU is such a grand gesture because, you know, an instrument like this could be sold. There are collectors of Longneck banjos still. It's a small group. But to donate it speaks of a commitment to maybe a deeper cause, a cause of keeping cultural continuity and an appreciation through, for example, this Longneck banjo. An appreciation of Pete Seeger's legacy is certainly something that is possible now that there's a Longneck banjo around the Bluegrass program offices and around ETSU campus. You know, the whole folk revival can be kind of, you know, visited in the medium of this particular instrument. It's just a grand gesture, and I'm very happy that this has happened here.